hard to keep track what day it is. It's been a long week. I think I know what day it is. Vlog day.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
So, welcome everyone to episode 3. Hope you liked the episode so far. I thought this week we could do some creative stuff, music, writing, and whatever you do yourselves that's creative. So, the creative process is different for everyone. Everyone can be creative in some way, even if they don't think they're a creative person. Good quote I found online was Oscar Wilde said, "Art is the most intense mode of individualism that the world has known." So I thought that was pretty good. For me, I like to describe art or creation in the following way. A process, act, idea or delivery of a piece of material, physical or otherwise, that engages people on a whole multitude of levels, that inspires, questions, motivates them to do something more. Whether that means work, live, laugh, or just appreciate more. Jim Carrey once said, "If you have talent, protect it." What do you think that means? For me, is it a literal meaning? I think it means don't place yourself in situations where your art or creative space is diminished in its value, ethically, morally. I think you should protect your talent by representing yourself to the best standard, which is your own standard, and don't allow others to dim your light. In the current situation that we're all going through, we're being told what we can't do, where we can't go, all this negativity. Some people are showing they can do amazing things in different creative ways. We can share our creativity. Luckily, during these times, there's hundreds of ways to promote yourself, your creative side, and share this with the whole world. Digital media, social networks, file sharing sites all help us to inspire and co-create with other people. Me, you, everyone took this hugely for granted, and when it's times such as these where we realise the power in sharing love, honesty, support, togetherness, can people get through the worst times. From some of the examples I showed in episode 2, there are loads of hugely talented people out there, and 99% of those people do what they do because they love it. And at the end of the day, if you was on a desert island, would you still write poetry, sing, play guitar? Of course you would. No one's there to hear it, but it comforts your soul and it makes you happy. Some absolutely lovely, talented, crazy people shared some time with me over the last few days to share their views on creativity. First up was Joe Kelly, who tells us about where he creatively started. So thank you, buddy, for doing this. If everyone lives under a rock and doesn't know Joe, so basically he's in a band called Upshot. He's done some amazing fundraising for Mind, which I was lucky enough to do some shots for. That was at Smokey Joe's.
That's right.
It was like a 50s kind of diner-esque retro kind of gaming music bar that hosts Americana nights. They do loads of amazing stuff, and you raised a lot of money for that, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, it was just over £500 for mine, so that's good. And we're doing an ultra marathon later on this year, hopefully, if things still go ahead.
Nice.
And that'll be to raise more money, just because we chose mine as a charity throughout this year.
Nice. So it was what you did at Smoky Joe's. It was a full day. How many bands was it you had on? It was a lot, wasn't it?
I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was 8 bands.
8 bands. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
I that must have been a nightmare to logistically kind of manage. I mean, we had, I think it was 8 or 9 people in when we did the Blues Brothers stuff, and just to get that number of people to rehearsal was a nightmare. So God knows how you did that.
Well, actually, it was going to be there was going to be more bands and different bands, but I had bands pull out last minute and change things around. But thankfully, because I mean, I've been in the Cheltenham and Gloucestershire and Bristol and Cardiff music scenes for quite a long time, so I know a lot of bands. So when bands had to pull out, I was then able to replace them and get people to step in last minute. And yeah, it is a little bit of organization to get things like that sorted, but thankfully, because I've done it before, I had the experience, so I had redundancy plans and sort of backups and things like that. So
yeah,
there's certainly ways to plan events like that don't end up in catastrophe, kind of, no matter what happens. So you can cover yourself depending on what happens.
Yeah, I bet. Well, it was an amazing day. I mean, I was there, I think, pretty much all 90% of it. But yeah, it was an amazing day. And so you're in a band, Upshot.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, actually, I've been in bands for a large proportion of my life. I was in a band when I was before being a teenager. Just started playing music with friends. I was a singer before that anyway, and yeah, I just every time I've been in a band and it's ended for whatever reason, either people moving away or going off to university, or being at university and members of the band then not being able to continue it on, and then again moving back home, I've always then gone, okay, well, what will I do next with music? Music's something that's been a large part of my life throughout the majority of my life. And so I think if I wasn't in a band, I would find it frustrating. I'd still create music probably as a solo artist, and I've done that for a while as well. But yeah, with my previous band, Welcome Back Delta, we were together for I think it was 7-8 years, something like that.
Oh wow.
And we'd gained some reasonable success doing larger scale festivals, and we played with Clutch and Airborne and Nick Oliveri from Queens of the Stone Age and things, and we released a couple of studio albums and did really well. And when that came to an end, I then was looking at what I could do next, and I met, well, I'd known James, who plays bass, who you know. He plays bass for me. I knew him anyway as a guitarist, actually, and we'd spent time together hanging out at festivals. And when we were at festivals together, he was saying that he missed being in a band that played original music. He plays in covers bands and things, but so he was a logical choice. My drummer, Alex, I've been friends with him since we were teenagers, and I was there when his band recorded their first album, and we've both been in music for a long time. He recorded my solo EP back in the day, a long time ago, out of his bedroom at the time. But yeah, we've been friends for years and years and years, and it was a good opportunity to go, well, why don't we, do you want to be in my band, and do you want to be in a band together? So that kind of was really good. And I played bass for Verity White, which is his wife, and he plays guitar in that as well. So now we're in 2 bands together, which is really cool.
Nice.
And Josh, who plays lead guitar for me, used to be in a band called Senosha, and Welcome Back Delta had played on the same billing as Senosha multiple times. We were all friends. We'd known each other again for years. And I've always loved his style as a lead guitarist and his ability. And again, he was just a natural choice of, do you want to come and play guitar for me? So it's just kind of like, it's nice.
It comes full circle, doesn't it?
Everything
comes back around.
Yeah, having been in multiple bands also meant that I knew a lot of people in and out of bands. So it meant that I had a large pool of people to consider of who is free, who would be able to be in this band and be able to create something.
That's a nice situation to be in, isn't it? To have a choice of people rather than, find it hard to, get people to want to be involved.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in situations when I was at university trying to start a band and not really knowing anyone, and obviously people finding it hard to find time to do it. And yeah, putting together a band can be very easy, but it can also be extremely hard depending on where you are, who you're friends with, who you know, what kind of support network you have, and what kind of scene there is, because obviously some towns it's very difficult to find bands and gigs and music and so on.
Well, I mean, when you mentioned the Back Delta stuff, it brings up memories for me of Crackers and going with James, because I know you played there a few times, didn't you?
Yeah, I think we played Crackers. We played a lot of places in sort of Charlton, Gloucester area, and but yeah, there's lots of I remember things like the Night Owl in Cheltenham, and things like we played a lot of venues around the local area, and sort of got to the point where we were pulling decent crowds. So
yeah, I mean, the time I referred to, the night of Crackers, would amazing night. So it stuck in my head after what, nearly, 15 years.
Wow.
15 years, it must be, to 12, 15 years. 34, yeah, must be. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. But you're obviously doing very well. I mean, I remember seeing flyers all around the place for Welcome Back Delta and everything else. So no doubt you'll get the same kind of feedback and respect with Upshot.
That's the hope, yeah. I mean, we're recording a studio album at the moment, which was planning to be released in sort of June, July, but with the sorry to date this interview, but with the current situation of COVID-19, obviously we're sort of reconsidering that date and sort of when is it best to release such a thing. And obviously the music scene has taken a massive hit with this current scenario. So it's it's very, I mean, it's interesting, but it's also kind of frustrating at times with the music industry at the moment, because it's kind of on pause. So
it is very much so. And regarding dating this, I mean, that's the whole reason why I thought it'd be a good idea to do this, because especially with the news and things you see on TV and everything else, and from where everyone's stuck at home so much, you just get, bogged down with all this negativity about, so many hundred deaths today and all the crap stuff and everything else. So, I mean, what with the lockdown stuff and, it's amazing how, when during the time of when a country is dealing with so much shit, it's like the war. I'm not comparing this to the war, but,
I know what you mean.
You see so much more people going out of their way to try and help each other and everything else. And I just think we should concentrate more on that kind of stuff and keep that way of life going. Next up, we've got James Walsh, who I've known for quite some years now. He's an amazing singer, songwriter, published author, dad, husband. So we'll shoot over to James now and we'll have a listen to what his views on creativity is. Every child is creative by default, and this kind of gets lost as we grow up, and it gets repressed in our belief of our true ability to be creative. How did you overcome this, and what do you think is important regarding nourishing the creative gene within the young?
Okay, I think, like you say, everybody's creative as a starting point, and sometimes that creativity is stifled either within themselves or by their surroundings. I was very lucky growing up, in as much as I had 4 brothers and 1 sister and no TV. So we had to sort of make our own entertainment, and we literally made games, papers, pens, cardboard, scissors, whatever. And so from a very early age, I was creative in that sense. And what it did do, I think the main thing that did for me was it gave me a sense of wanting things to be just right. When I started singing later, and other creative things that I've done since, the main thing for me was getting it right. And I think that what I've been able to do is bring that to my children over the years. And the key thing is to avoid stifling, is to always encourage, and kids will create and make mistakes, and you can go correct those things, and just constantly say, yeah, that's great. Have you thought about doing this to improve it? Have you thought about doing that? So I think that's the main thing, just to encourage.
Do you think there's a big difference between encouraging them and being pushy with it? For example, like I know a lot of these pageant mums, they feel like because they haven't succeeded in what they wanted to do, they kind of push it on their kids. Do you think that's something that happens more now or less compared to when you were growing up?
That's something that happens very much more now because of things like social media and so on, and the ease of exposing your children and whatever they're doing to other people, and so therefore you kind of, as you say, I think you get a lot of parents that want to try and relive things or do things that they would have liked to have done but weren't able to through their children. And they can, that can certainly be something where people get really pushy with it. And again, I've always deliberately tried to avoid being like that.
Well, I mean, from the things I've seen that you do with your kids, you definitely encourage them, like the song that we've spoke about earlier, and obviously you've been really successful in what you do, obviously with the books and the music and everything else. So I think it's a big difference between, like you said, encouragement rather than pushing them into something which you haven't been able to accomplish. If you haven't been successful within that area. So based on the music that you're doing with your daughter now, what sort of age was it where you realised that you wanted to do something creatively?
That's a little bit more of a. I mean, I think that's going to highlight something that you've already been talking about. When I was about 16, there was a show going on at school, and I decided a couple of me mates were going to be in it, and I thought, I'll have a go at that. I'm sure I can sing a bit. And as a result, I got involved, and I was, cast as the sort of 15th chorus person from the end on the left or whatever. And then within a couple of days of that, one of the lead characters pulled out. I think it was something to do with exam commitments or something. So another thing I wanted to touch up on was we hear of people within social media being influencers and social media creators. The two biggest ones for me that inspire me to do things differently or have a different outlook on the way different platforms has changed. Those two people are Casey Neistat. His art of storytelling, whilst he's making his videos, is just a whole next level. And the other one is Peter McKinnon. His cinematography is beautiful. His B-roll and just the way the concept they come up, they create, and the way that they set challenges and just inspire other people to also be creative and think outside the box and really motivate people. And finally, way over in Nashville, is the amazingly talented Bentley Gore, who took some time with me to discuss his journey, his thoughts.
I don't need to say anything else really. Here's me and Brentley having a chat. We all know and love Brentley from back in the days of California Dreams, and you've been really busy since after, doing other projects such as Breaking Vegas, Death Machine Zoe, the Jimmy Fallon thing, which I saw on YouTube with the rest of your guys from back in the day of California Dreams. Musically, you've gone on to do King Straggler, one of the founding members of that with Rodney Eastman and John Hawkes. Your first solo album was Up Until Now, which premiered at number 4, amazingly, on a Reverb Nation Hot New Artist chart in 2011. Brentley, thank you so much for doing this today. I cannot tell you how excited I am to speak to you. It's absolutely amazing. I'm so excited. How is everyone? Everyone safe where you are?
Yeah, everyone is safe. We're just kind of isolating, just like everyone else, you know. And I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee, actually, which is my hometown. Moved back here, but we're all safe here. Yeah.
Amazing.
Have a new child. Have a
No way.
child. Yeah, I have a 3-month-old.
Wow,
3 months and a week. Remington,
Jeez.
Rockwell. I call him Remy Rock.
But they're all good. Everyone's doing well.
Yeah, everyone in my world is safe, apart from a few, you know, peripheral people that I know that kind of were older that suffered, but no one in my close immediate family.
Good. Well, I hope everyone stays, you know, as well as they can be. So how was it seeing everybody on the Jimmy Fallon thing a few years ago? Was it good to catch up?
Yeah, it was good fun. I think, you know, it's an interesting thing doing stuff like that because you know, it's like you're going back in time, and that's a really sometimes a difficult thing to do because you revisit. It's like a high school reunion. You know, it's kind of like sometimes you love the part of it, and sometimes you'd rather just be in where you are now. But that was good fun. It was a big, huge part of my life, obviously.
So we'll jump straight in and we'll go to the first point, which is every child is creative by default, and this gets lost as we grow older and keep getting repressed in our belief of our true ability to be creative. How did you overcome this, and what do you think is important regarding nurturing the creative gene within the young?
Two questions, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Love this question. How did I get over it was the first question. I really think I have to give a lot of credit to my father for that.
Okay.
He encouraged me to pursue that I wanted to pursue, and creative endeavors were always my pursuit. I always thrived there. I always enjoyed. I always liked doing them, and I think having the support was monumental in my even entering any sort of creative path, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the whole kind of nature versus nurture thing, I think when you have supportive parents, I think those two things go together, and they often get, you know, put on sort of juxtaposition parts where it's either one or the other. But when you actually have supportive parents, the nature goes along with the nurture. So obviously if you've naturally got a gift for it, and then you have your parents that support you and, you know, boost you up and give you the support you need to encourage that, you know, I think it's so massively important to have those two things rather than them being compared in an opposite kind of way.
Exactly. And I did have a little bit of that as well, just being from my maternal side. My mom was very much, no, I want you on a very tangible, fundamental path, not a creative path. So I kind of had both sides. And ultimately, I've had jobs after California Dreams. I had jobs that were in corporate world, and then I've had obviously creative jobs. Doing something like California Dreams was a corporate job in a creative endeavor.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother thing. And just like having a record deal, you depending on what they're going to put money into, they're very rarely going to let you go right down that road that you want to do unless you've already proven yourself. So my overcoming that so I would say that's where it began. That's how that's where it initially started. There was always a push there and an encouragement, and then I had the courage to do so. I was planning on going to university out of high school and entering a theater department, and I wanted to go to New York instead. And I sort of made the pitch to my parents, and my dad said, okay. So that was it. I mean, that just started me on the road. I went, at 18 years old, I moved to New York, and I started conservatory for, acting and music. And that's where it all began. So that was great. And then the second part of that question was, how do you overcome obstacles that get in your way? Is that the question?
Yeah. How do you sort of overcome the sort of kind of social pressures, obviously, because we're all brought up in sort of the realm of, you should get a job, you should pay tax, you should get married. There's like almost like social cues that you're kind of repressed into following. So how do you kind of break that cycle of the emotional and creative repression that just general sort of social society puts upon you to get out and actually do something that you want to do?
Yeah, great. It's a war and it's a battle. And it's a constant, consistent war and a battle. And sometimes it's beautiful and it flows, and sometimes it's you against the world. And I've retreated and I've pursued, wholeheartedly and with all my energy and all my effort. And I've done both sides. And what I came to realize, and what I've most recently even realized in a very profound way, is that the output and the completion of a project is more important than let's just say the public, anyone outside of myself. It's more important than the perception or reception of it. If I do not pursue that and accomplish what it is that I set out to do in a creative way, I am unhappy no matter how much money I'm making, no matter what other pursuits I'm achieving. If I am not creating something, I am an unhappy person. And I had to accept that no matter what other people say, no matter what society says, no matter what my bank account says, no matter what zip code I live in, whatever that is.
That comes back to the same kind of thing. At the end of the day, I think if you can get up for work in the morning and you actually go to work and you enjoy your job, it doesn't matter how much money you earn. If you just get a sense of fulfillment and you're proud to do what you do, money, as nice it is as it is, I think comes secondary to fulfillment of your purpose.
And I think that's where we all find our purpose. I think that is the creative gene that you're hinting on. If I think is where we find that, because some people's creative purpose might be in a corporate, running a corporation. Yeah. And if that's where they feel most creative and most inspired, then that's what they should be doing. And forcing someone to do something that is out of the obligation of Now, I'm not talking about food and shelter and, you know, working at a fast food place in order to pay for food and shelter. That has to be primary. I'm talking about once you've achieved primary stability, food, shelter, clothing, then that your pursuit should be in your creative endeavors.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, and I think there's a difference there. So I think that's, you know, I got a little sidetracked, but I think someone running a corporation, the reason that's a creative process for him as well, or her as well.
Definitely. So when you were talking about going to university and your upbringing and the positive and the not so positive sides of the parental kind of stuff to do with creativity, can you sort of go back and think to any particular time, what was the first creative thing that you made and sort of the first creative accomplishment that you think you had?
Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday, and I, you know, it seems probably pretty obvious when I say it, like, well, that sounds so silly, but I can remember being around 8 or 9 years old, don't know exactly the year, but I was on a bike, I had a green bike, and I was riding with my family, and I was writing a song and making up rhymes with a song. And I remember, because I have a musical family, that my father, another, you know, shout out at him being a hero of mine, it was like, that's really good. That's really good. That's a good little song you got there. And I don't really, I remember how it goes, but I don't remember exactly every detail. I just remember it being something that I felt so proud of, that I created out of thin air, you know.
And it's funny how you think back to sort of times like that, because I remember when I was growing up, and my dad was always so instrumental, funnily enough, on words, about, you know, encouraging me. It's like I remember riding out on my bike, similar kind of thing to you, and I remember going home and he'd bought me just a drum kit, just completely out of the blue, from somebody up the road, and we used to go up into my bedroom and just like thrash out Queen songs, like just two of it. Like, I mean, this was like a normal street. I mean, we had neighbors either side. It was like almost like a terrace kind of setup. And I this one time, the next door neighbor came around, she was banging on the door and she was going absolutely mental. My dad just didn't entertain it. You know, he obviously, the priority of like my dad and me rocking out in my bedroom was like way higher than, you know. So I know what you mean about, you know, having those memories about having that reciprocation of, you know, backwards and forwards with you know, your parents and things like that. Excuse me. So
things like that are like consistent pieces of work. I think what I try to keep in mind is that project's ideal. You know, what is it that I'm trying to say here? And my newest thing is exactly what you're talking about for me, is to try to explain my path and getting the most creative self out of myself in the most authentic way. It can be a character, it could be other things, but I think that my endeavor is to achieve where I am presently on the outside, it within the confines of sound and vision, you know, songs and video, you know, to make that authentic. So I think kind of that's why I loved your you said you wanted to talk about creativity. You caught me at the perfect time, because I was like, this is really where I am.
Good.
Yeah, man.
Excellent. So I know for a fact that so many people are going to be really excited to see you in this, because I'm kind of in many circles of this kind of thing that we're talking about today, and everybody, all the kind of organic, kind of natural creative process, which that we've spoke about kind of before, and especially with your music, the Americana stuff, and
Mm.
all the kind of things that you put forth, the non-profit kind of stuff, and just the whole kind of complete selflessness of wanting to help people through the being creative and all that. So I thank you so much for doing this today. It really does. I'm so
My
excited
pleasure.
about speaking to you.
My pleasure, and thank you for asking me. It really is my pleasure.
No problem at all. If
It
I can
takes
ask
guts
you,
it takes guts to ask. So,
yeah,
you asked at the right time, and you got me at the right time, because normally I'd be like, nah, because I'm involved in myself. But I'm at a really great time right now, and I'm so thrilled that you came to me with creativity. You didn't come to me with, can we please talk about California Dreams and your relationship with Fly? Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like, come on. It's like, let's talk about now. What's going on now, and I don't mind talking about the past, but we're here, we're here.
And that's another one of the things that why I'm doing this, because, in all this shit that's going on now, all the negativity, I think we need to start being positive, and, we're constantly being told what we can't do. You can't go out, you can't do this, can't do that. And I'm seeing this stuff on social media, about people showing what they can do, whether it's singing, poetry, writing. I watched my first non oh god, I can't remember how they described it. Non-audio emotional. It was
Whoa.
acting. It was
Whoa.
But it was
How was that?
just all about the emotion and stuff. And it was, I never really kind of thought about it before, but when you take audio out of a physical scene, I mean, it was actually a really depressing subject. It was about domestic abuse, but it was all based on body language and the emotional aspects behind it,
Wow.
and it was actually really good. It was really amazing to see, how, once you strip away the basic kind of primary thing that you absorb things with, listening, how it impacts you, and it was really good.
My pleasure.
Brentley, what can I say? I am buzzing.
Yeah, man.
Been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. And
my pleasure.
I'll link you in it so you'll get to see it when it comes out. And thank you so much for doing everything you've done. And thank you for making my childhood tolerable.
It's really my pleasure, and it's really nice to meet you. And I really look forward to seeing it, and to what you do in your creative endeavors.
Definitely, yeah. And thank you for the photo. I get to thank you in person this time. Thank you for the photo. It's absolutely incredible.
We got this, man. We gotta we gotta keep it flowing. We gotta keep it flowing. Important.
Definitely.
All right.
Next, I'll tell you what. Next kind of thing I've got coming up, I'll let you know. See if you want to do this again.
Sounds good.
Definitely.
Take care,
thank you, Brentley.
Yeah,
absolute
man.
legend. See you later.
Creative people. I don't know if this is necessarily a trait in creative people, but generally 99% of them share a lot of the same qualities and values, such as they love and protect animals, they're not tolerant towards people who can respect other people and other cultures, generally good, open people, and it's such a wide community where, people share experiences and share the love of what they do. So I posted on Facebook, Twitter, send me some examples of your creativity, and I can put them in a nice slow motion montage, great word, montage, and share some of the love and share everybody about some of the amazing things that you've been making.
How will you remember this time? Will you remember the quarantine, the isolation, the social distancing? Or will you remember the freedom of working from home, the time spent with loved ones, the family meals? Will you remember homeschooling your children, the madness, the mess, the chaos? Or will you remember teaching your children to play together, to share, to learn new things, to have fun? Will you remember being stuck indoors, not being able to go out for coffee or lunch with friends? Or will you remember baking with your family, learning a new skill, or exercising with Joe Wicks? Will you remember the frustration of not being allowed outside, the boredom, the repetitiveness of each day? Or will you remember being able to relax on the sofa, to watch TV, to video call your friends and relatives? However you remember this time, remember the key workers who put their own lives at risk every day, who kept our country going, and communities that came together every Thursday night at 8 p.m. to show their appreciation. And remember how safe you were in your isolation. Remember the loved ones who are lost, who will never see the outside again, and the families who couldn't comfort them as they passed away. And remember how lucky you are that you've survived, that you have lived to feel the sunshine on your face and see the moonlight and to be free again. However you remember to stay safe and always remember to be kind.
Right guys, that's the end of another week. Please, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and hit the notification bell in the corner so you get updated and alerted as to when I release these new videos. Thank you so much for James, Brentley, Joe, and all the people that sent me stuff in to show in this video. Without all of you, I would have had nothing to make, basically. Next week we're going to be covering funny families. So if you've got any funny stories, videos, anybody falling off a chair, someone slipping in the bathroom, or just stories that you want a video and send in to me, we'll cover all those next time. I've got a lot. My family's a bit weird, so I'll include some of the ones that I can, because some of them aren't probably going to be suitable, especially if they're from Sarah. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much again, and I shall see you next week. Bye.
Hello. Baked potato changed my life. Baked potato showed me the way. If you want to know what is wrong from right, you must listen to what potatoes say.
Wash your hands and stay indoors.
Thank you, baked potato.
Only visit grocery stores.
Thank you, baked potato. And if you want to have a better day, you must listen to what the baked potatoes say.
Keep your distance, make some space.
Thank you, baked potato.
Remember not to touch your face.
Thank you, baked potato. And if you want to have a better day, you must listen to what the baked potatoes say. B-A-K-E-T-P-O-T-A-T-O. Baked potato.